You can call him cocky, you can call him whatever, but you can back it up. That's okay.
I've always expected the best out of myself. I've had very high standards. I believe I can achieve them.
In 2008, a 23-year-old rookie stood on the first tee at the Ryder Cup, looked his captain in the eye, pointed across the fairway at Sergio Garcia, and said this, "I'm gonna whoop his for you today, Captain." Then, that rookie did exactly that. 5 birdies and an eagle in 14 holes. He didn't just beat the most feared closer in European Ryder Cup history. He dismantled him hole by hole. That rookie's name was Anthony Kim, and he just shocked the golf world.
To enter a whole new era. Win number 1 for Anthony Kim.
So naturally, nobody watching that day asked the one question that would eventually matter. What happens to a man who never learns how to stop, who doesn't know how to slow down, who doesn't know anything than 100%? The answer to that question is a tragic one. This is the story of Anthony Kim. In the late 2000s, golf belonged to the fist-pumping phenom Tiger Woods. Everyone else was playing for second place, and they knew it. Everyone but Anthony Kim, apparently, because he did not get the memo. He was almost literally golf's incarnation of Ricky Bobby.
If you ain't first, you're last.
He wore belt buckles with his own initials on them, he walked the fairway like he owned it, and he backed up every ounce of that swagger with a golf swing that was pure, unadulterated violence. By 2008, the proof was undeniable. He won the Wachovia Championship by a dominating 5 shots. 2 months later, he won a tournament hosted by Tiger Woods himself on Tiger's own course in heroic fashion. Then came Valhalla, then Sergio Garcia, then the line that became Ryder Cup folklore.
Everyone asks us every week, who do you think's the best young players? We all say Anthony Kim, every one of us.
The Americans won the Cup that week. Anthony Kim was just 23 years old. Golf fans love their heroes, and everybody was becoming well aware that Tiger could not be king forever. So, Anthony Kim officially became the next big thing. The following spring, at the 2009 Masters, he shot a second-round 65 with 11 birdies. No one has got 11 birdies in a single round at Augusta since, and that record stands to this day. He was ranked 6th in the world by that point, and he was 24 years old, and there was not a single part of his game or his life that operated at anything less than full throttle.
He's an assassin. A guy who has no fear, tremendous golf swing, hits it a mile, good putter, makes lots of birdies.
He's got the game, he's got the swagger, he's got the belief in his abilities, he loves the big moment.
That should have worried somebody, but it didn't. Just like Icarus flying too close to the sun, it's hard to imagine the bad times when things are going well. One thing to understand though is that a golf swing is a violent motion to begin with, and Anthony Kim swung harder than almost anyone else alive. In 2010, he won the Shell Houston Open while playing through severe pain in his thumb. He had surgery on it a month later. Then came his Achilles. In June 2012, he ruptured it completely. Surgeons gave him a recovery timeline of 9 to 12 months. 9 months passed, and fans were eagerly awaiting his return. Then 12, then 2 years, then 5. Anthony Kim didn't come back. He stopped giving interviews, he stopped posting anything anywhere. He disappeared so completely and mysteriously that golf fans were beyond perplexed. It just didn't make sense. It was a serious injury to be sure, but something that was recoverable from. So, in the midst of fans wondering about the mystery of where Anthony Kim went, and with a lack of facts behind the disappearance, they started to create facts of their own. Here is what the public believed, and here's why they had every reason to believe it. Reports had surfaced that Kim had taken out a massive disability insurance policy, reportedly worth somewhere between $10 and $20 million. That insurance policy was supposedly to pay out in full if ever a career-ending injury ever happened. The catch, as it was reported, if he ever played professional golf again, he'd have to return every cent. He never confirmed it or denied it, and for over a decade he said nothing. not a single public word. That story started to harden into fact the way stories do when nobody steps in to correct them. People speculated that Anthony Kim took the money and ran. He was living it up somewhere, laughing at the rest of us, while the game that made him famous forgot his name. The golf world pictured him on a yacht, and listen, during many of these years, there wasn't a whole lot of reason to deny these allegations. People didn't have much to go on. But, as with many things in life, the truth is much stranger than fiction. And the truth of what happened to Kim was hiding in an emergency room.
I developed a lot of things where I had to go to mental health professionals. I used to be the guy that would look at people and say, wow, I'll never be like that. I will never get that low. I will never make those decisions.
His body hadn't stopped breaking. The Achilles was only the beginning. He had surgery on his shoulder, his hand, and eventually a spinal fusion. But honestly, the physical damage was nothing compared to what was happening inside his own mind. Stripped of the only identity he had ever really known, Anthony Kim stopped leaving his house. He spent his days in front of a television with his dogs, with the outside world completely switched off. And in that silence, he turned to the kid who pointed at Sergio Garcia without a flicker of fear was gone, and in his place was a man who'd later say, in his own words, that he contemplated ending the pain entirely. For almost 2 decades, he admits, this horrific and haunting thought circled around his head. I was aggressive on the course, and I was aggressive off the course, and that led to my demise. Anthony Kim had lost his sense of self, and just like most of us, his greatest strength also became his greatest weakness. For the first time in his entire life, the thing that had brought him so much success, his absolute refusal to give it anything but 100%, was the very thing trying to kill him.
You know, I tried to have confidence in what I was doing, and I think that led to me having false confidence in my life of what I was supposed to do. So I made some poor decisions.
He never needed a brake pedal. His talent had always been large enough that restraint was never required. But now, restraint was the only thing that could save him. But Anthony Kim didn't know how to do that. And honestly, when I knew I wanted to tell the story of Anthony Kim, this is where I thought his story might end. He seemed like another great talent, just like David Duval, a man who just wasn't strong enough to exercise his own demons long enough to get back to the top. A prodigy with more talent than nearly anyone of his generation, a swing that made him a legend at 23 and a death sentence by 35. A man who disappeared so completely that an entire sport simply assumed the worst of him and moved on. No comeback, no trophy, no redemption arc. A man the golf world decided to forget. And that's where most of us thought the story would end, the tragic fate of Anthony Kim. One that nobody expected and even fewer understood.
Man, it's I don't know where to start. I developed a lot of things where I had to go to mental health professionals. I developed psychosis.
But just when it seemed like all was lost, something started to change. On his 6th day in that emergency room back in 2023, when everything seemed the darkest, when Kim was fighting for his life, he said that if he survived, he would keep the promise that he was about to make. In his own words, I promised myself that I would do everything I could to make a difference, to show my daughter that it's never too late to keep trying. So when he finally checked into rehab, he embarrassingly needed his sober coach to hold him up to walk through the doors. He was placed on a medically supervised withdrawal, medication twice a day, just to detox safely without his body shutting down completely. This was not a man thinking about golf. He was solely focused on the promise he made to his little girl. That was my goal. I said if I got out of here, I'd like to help people. Golf wasn't in the picture. Anthony Kim got sober, and he found faith. At the Tulsa World in 2026, he said, on June 13th of that year, I decided to go to a Christian rehab for 2 months and asked God to remove the desire to drink. I walked out in August. Anthony Kim actively gives sermons at his church in California. In his own words, he said that he found self-love, respect, and purpose inside a building that most people only ever see from the outside. Finally, it seemed like Anthony Kim was on the path to brighter days ahead. He had no intention of ever playing professional golf again. None. The game had built him into a legend, and it had nearly killed him doing it. He was done with it.
I know it's hard to believe, but I absolutely didn't play any golf. I didn't have golf clubs, golf shirt, golf shoes to play with, so it was a long time away.
Then his wife Emily told him something that shook his world. She said, "I want to learn the game of golf." Anthony Kim responded, "This is not what you want to do. You'll end up tearing your hair out." She didn't listen. She kept asking and kept practicing. She eventually found herself out on the golf course playing alongside her husband Anthony. Anthony was hesitant to get back out there. He had no intention of competing. He didn't want to dominate. He simply wanted to be there, spending quality time with his wife, helping her work on her swing. Yet, during that time, something weird started to happen. He started to feel something about the game of golf he never felt before. I don't think I ever loved it. What's weird to me right now is that I'm falling in love with the game. For the first time in his life, golf had nothing to do with pressure, nothing to do with proving anything. He was just a man on a golf course, watching his wife get better, with no expectations attached to a single swing. Then, in early 2024, LIV Golf Commissioner Greg Norman called Kim and offered him a wild card. He was 38 years old. His body was held together by surgical screws. 12 years had passed since he'd hit a single competitive shot. So, the call from Greg Norman was more than a surprise. It was possibly the last thing Anthony Kim expected. He thought about his daughter Bella. He thought about her growing up, reading rumors about a father who took the money and disappeared, about a man the internet had already decided was a loser. So, he said yes.
I was away from the game for just over 12 years.
It'd be nice to see some familiar faces and get back to some of the same places I used to go when I was a little bit younger.
And it did not go well. In March 2024, he played his first competitive round in over a decade. He shot 16 over par. He finished dead last, 33 shots behind the winner, and the internet was merciless. He was washed up. He was embarrassing himself. He should have stayed in the room he'd just spent 12 years trying to leave. Should have just collected the insurance money and forgot about golf. He finished that season 56th out of 57 players. Next year, he was 55th. The Anthony Kim who walked off Valhalla in 2008 would have quit on the spot. His ego wouldn't have survived a single one of those finishes. But this version of Kim didn't care about ego. He had mastered that during the darkest years of his life. No, this version of Kim cared about something deeper. He cared about promises made. So, he kept going. He earned his way back through a promotion event. Fast forward to February 2026. LIV Golf Adelaide, final round. Anthony Kim started the day 5 shots behind the leaders, major champions Bryson DeChambeau and Jon Rahm. And on that Sunday, something woke inside Anthony that hadn't moved in over a decade.
The story of the day, it's Anthony Kim. He hasn't put a foot wrong.
Since day one, AK has said he believed he could get to this type of form and get in contention and win.
He started to play the round of his life. He didn't look like a 40-year-old man with a fused spine. He looked exactly like the kid who pointed across the fairway at Sergio Garcia and meant every word of what he said, except this time with something deeper, more calm, and more resolute driving him. You could feel the electricity in the air of that round when Kim walked up to the 12th tee box. The par 3 12th hole at the Grange is called the watering hole. It is by far the loudest and most chaotic spot on the course. It was completely packed with fans who were teeming with the excitement of a possible Anthony Kim win. Anthony hit a solid tee shot to just inside 17 feet. Standing at the ball at the green, sizing up his putt, Anthony took his position over the ball and did this.
There it is. AK is...
The crowd erupted into what can only be described as thunderous applause. Anthony had just tied for the lead, and the momentum didn't stop. He birdied 13.
How can you not be? How can you not be?
He birdied 14.
He's going to have a chance.
He birdied 15.
Unbelievable.
He birdied 17. He had made 4 birdies in 5 holes and was at 8 total for the day without a single bogey. By the time he was walking up the 18th fairway, nearly all the spectators on the course were there with him, watching, cheering. He played the hole solidly and left himself this tap-in putt for a win.
It's one of the greatest comeback stories in any sport in history. How sweet is that hug from daughter Bella, wife Emily, who have helped AK turn his life around.
After draining it, he immediately grabbed his real trophy, his daughter Bella. Anthony Kim had just won his first professional victory in over 16 years by 3 shots. When reporters asked him about the win, he didn't talk about his swing. What he said was this: "Every putt that went in, I felt the struggle and I was overcoming it. For my daughter to be able to run on the green and see her dad isn't a loser was one of the most special moments of my life." Someone then asked what he hoped Bella would one day understand about all of it.
Before she came into this world, that I didn't feel any purpose in my life. And I just want her to know that no matter how bad your day is, if you keep fighting, you never lose. And hopefully she takes that with her for the rest of her life.
Then, almost as an aside, Anthony chuckled.
She definitely isn't picking up on it. I think she just wants me to make as much money as possible so she can have a good life.
That was the first time in this story that anyone had laughed. 4 days after the win, Kim posted something online that should be the real thing that is remembered about this moment. Anthony Kim didn't take $20 million to disappear and live the high life. He spent 12 years learning the one thing his talent never taught him, something that could only be learned through love, life, loss, and faith. The real tragedy of Anthony Kim's story was never that he fell from the heights of success. It was that for over a decade, the whole world gave up on him. We were all so sure his story had ended that none of us bothered to ask if his story was truly over. Lucky for all of us, I think, it wasn't.
Don't f***ing quit. That's it. Don't f***ing quit.
Stories like this one are what this channel is built for. So if this is something you like, hit that subscribe button because there's plenty more.